All Donald Trump does is lie his ass off every time he opens his mouth. But reality has a funny way of coming back to kick you in the ass. You know, in May, he said he created 144,000 jobs, and that got revised down to 19,000. In June, he said he created 149,000 jobs. That got revised down to 14,000. He keeps saying the price of gas is below $2 a gallon. The cheapest place you can buy gas in all of America is bumfuck Mississippi for $2.75 a gallon. He says inflation's going down. It's going up. He says the tariffs aren't a tax. They're a tax. He said that they've raised $150 billion for America. That's $150 billion extra dollars Americans have paid for his tariff bullshit. Now he's saying he's going to build a 90,000 square foot ballroom in the White House, and he's going to pay for it himself. And if you believe that, I have a border wall that Mexico paid for that I'd like to sell you.
All right, Trumpers, come and get me. Listen, I want you to hear something. This is what you voted for. This is what you voted for right here. Take a listen.
We will end inflation and make America affordable again. We're going to get the prices down. We have to get them down. It's too much. Groceries, cars, everything. We're going to get the prices down. We will cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices.
But here's the deal. In the Wall Street Journal, he says he can't guarantee getting these prices down. He says once prices go up, they don't come back down. This is what you voted for. He's talking about taxes. You've been under Donald Trump's tax plans for the last 4 years. His tax plan expires in 2025. And the next tax plan is going to be garbage. This is the guy you voted for. This is the liar that you voted for. And you guys gave us all talking points when you voted for this crook, because he just sit there and said his goal was to bring it down better than anything. Bullshit. Because in his article in the Times said, kind of once they go up, they don't really come down. It's hard to get them down and this and that. And now he's wanting to do these tariffs. He fucked you guys. Have a good evening.
You guys remember about a year ago, we sat in this very chair on this very app and we chatted about how dangerous it was that Alabama basically made embryos human beings because all the IVF providers were going to leave the state because they weren't going to be feeling comfortable performing IVF anymore and handling embryos, because if something happened, they would basically be charged with murder. And you guys were all up in my comments being like, no. You don't understand. Daddy Trump made this campaign promise and he said he's basically going to hand out IVF like participation trophies. Everyone's going to get free IVF. He's going to force the insurance companies to cover it. You guys remember that? Remember we had that very conversation in this very seat, you remember? You want me to jog your memory? You don't remember? Okay. Well, you said that after I made that video. You can go back and check. It's like a year ago. I was saying it's very fucking dangerous because people in Alabama specifically are no longer going to have access to IVF. And if other states follow suit, other states could no longer have access to IVF. And it's just not good for the people there who want to go through IVF treatments. It's obviously not fair. But you guys like swore to God that Trump was going to make it okay. You know, you're like, no, daddy's going to handle it. You want to know what he did today? You want to know what his administration said today? They said, we have no plans to make insurance companies touch IVF. We have no plans to do anything about IVF. We have no plans to talk about IVF. We don't care about IVF. IVF is a you problem, not an us problem. That's what they said. You remember that? Now today, you look a little stupid, maybe. Because I've been fighting for your rights as a woman, to IVF, to all of these things, you know, to your own body, to the ability to go through IVF if that's what you need to. That's what you and your partner need to do to become parents. I've been fighting for that for you guys. But now you guys just look dumb. So, yikes.
Donald Trump may be beginning to cave on the government shutdown. That after a new poll shows that Americans across the board, including Republicans, want the subsidies for the Affordable Care Act for health care to be renewed. They're going away at the end of this year. Republicans are refusing to renew them. Democrats, one of their big demands for signing on to the continuing resolution, all the budget negotiations going on, is that Republicans renew the ACA tax credits. Trump and the Republicans are saying no. In fact, they want to kill the ACA. Trump has tried repeatedly and failed. And the new poll shows, let me give you the numbers, support for renewing the credits. Democrats, 92%. Independents, 82%. Republicans, 59%. And Republicans who call themselves Maga, 57% want them renewed. That's not good, but it gets even worse. Guess who voters blame? If, in fact, the credits don't get renewed and health care prices, insurance goes through the roof, Republicans. 3/4 of Americans would blame Republicans or Donald Trump if the tax credits are not renewed. A whopping 81% of independents would blame Donald Trump and Republicans. And even among Republican voters, 40% would blame Republicans and Trump. Republican pollster Tony Fabrizio says this is big trouble for Republicans. He echoes this sentiment, saying that polls show if a Republican lets the tax credits expire, they would lose to a Democrat by 15 points in a congressional race generically. So overall, Democrats were very wise to hook all of this to healthcare reform, to ACA, to tax credits. It's looking bad for Republicans, and Trump's people are starting to get worried. That's great. Medicaid, still don't know what's going to happen there, but this is why Republicans, by the way, are deferring and keep trying to pretend this is about illegal immigrants. It's not, because they know if they talk about the ACA and healthcare reform and Obamacare, it's going to hurt them in the polls.
How can you be a pathological liar and a straight shooter at the same time? That's the paradox of Donald Trump. The man lies constantly. Fact check it, Google it. But people still see him as honest, even trustworthy. How? Because communication isn't just about words. Studies show only 7 to 10% of what we communicate comes from the actual words we use. The rest, tone of voice, body language, and presence. The stuff that hits us emotionally before logic even has a chance. Here's the thing, he doesn't hesitate. He doesn't second guess himself or soften his claims with maybe or I think, even when he's wrong. He delivers his lies with total confidence. That boldness feels real to people. And timing mattered. Certainty is a fundamental human need. And during the pandemic, we were all robbed of it. Fear, chaos, and uncertainty took over. And someone who speaks with unshakable confidence, right or wrong, will come across as powerful. Now, compare that to an expert who says, let me double check, or adds qualifiers like we're not completely sure yet. Even if they're right, their caution comes across as weak. And in public perception, weakness often reads as dishonesty. That's the secret. It's not what he says, it's how he says it. Trump's tone, gestures, and confidence override facts. He projects certainty so well that it feels authentic, even when it's not. And that's the real power of communication. Facts matter, but perception is king. Words are forgettable, confidence sticks.
In 1990s, Trump said that if he would have to run for the presidency, he would do so on a Republican ticket because Republicans are stupid. What he echoed in Kentucky when he said that smart people don't like me. My name is Anthony. Hello everyone, welcome back to my YouTube channel. It's amazing having you here. And it is so hard for Trump to perform in urban areas, number one. Number two, in states which rank higher in terms of education nationally. That because these people in these states or in these urban centers are well-informed people who are capable of doing their own research, are capable of doing their own research.
So Donald Trump is inventing new lies about October the 7th. Here he is earlier today claiming that he's seen videos of 4-month-old babies being chopped up.
But you do understand about October 7th.
Of course,
You do understand.
So believe me, I understand.
One of the worst days in the history of humanity. What happened, I have seen the tapes. Babies that are 4 months old and just chopped up to pieces. And you've seen the tapes and I've seen the tapes. You're a professional and so am I.
The fact that the journalist didn't bother pushing back and saying, actually, that's not true, whilst the most powerful man in the world said he'd seen footage of this, is really quite something. But it just doesn't surprise me, because all of these people believe Hamas and their barbarity is on a level that is far beyond Israel's. It doesn't matter if Israel has torn tens of thousands of people to shreds with American-made weapons. Nothing that they can do compares to Hamas, and therefore Israel has the right to exterminate them. It is classic Orientalism. It is a classic way of establishing an other that is far more savage and barbaric than anything that the civilized Israelis could ever do.
America
A bunch of you voted for a psychopathic narcissist, old man with a diminished cerebellum. And the results are, we have a United States president in the 21st century threatening to invade Panama by military force, threatening to take over Greenland and Canada through economic force. So, those of you who voted for Trump, and I know plenty of you come here and troll me and talk smack, and I enjoy it, please tell me how you feel, because you voted for someone who said they were going to do the opposite, right? The person would create peace. And you've got a person who is immediately instigating the threat of various types of warfare, economic warfare and actual military warfare against our allies, while at the same time taking a shaisa on one of the greatest men that ever served as a president. Didn't say he was the greatest president, but he was one of the greatest men. And there's Gen Z celebrating this man after he passed. That's how important he is. There's not many presidents that lived where 3 generations later, they're celebrating him. He's that important of a man. And our United States president is going to stand up and try to take a shaisa on him in order to what? To justify attacking Panama? To create strife? America is not number one. No one is number one today. We have multiple nations that need each other. America is number one in military, and we're number one in buying power. Little wake-up call. We're not number one in technology. We're number one in facilitating technology. That means that there are other nations, other countries, that if pressed could produce what we produce here. In fact, many of the technological advances that are made in America today, and have been for years, are by foreigners. I mean, even after World War II, it was German scientists that boomed science, engineering, psychology, all these different things in America. Technologies, medicine, a lot of them. Einstein, to name one. I mean, we need a global balanced system, and you have a president coming in who is threatening to annex Canada? Look up the history of Canada and warfare. We may have the best military, but Canadians are like Vietnamese, Korean, Japanese scary when it comes to military. I don't think we really need that kind of trouble. Look up Canadian warfare history. That shaisa will blow your mind. World War II especially. All wars. You don't want to mess with Canadians. You don't want to mess with Canadians. They're friendly. They're psychotically friendly. Like there's something deep. Check out Canadian warfare. I emphasize that a lot because it's important to know the history of certain people before you decide to attack them. We must stop this. We must stop this. We cannot allow a president to actually stand up publicly and make statements like this. It should not be acceptable. This should be like where in the other countries, someone steps up and does something this stupid, Liz Truss, they have to resign. You should not be allowed to serve as president of the United States or any serious nation that can throw off the entire balance of this planet with your stupid, inconsiderate, unknowing, ignorant statements. He's lying, he's dangerous, he's a problem, and we're all just sitting here on social media. I'm doing what I can, if I'm honest. This is what I can do. I can take 10 minutes out of my day in between work, grinding my butt away, to try to motivate people better than me to take action. People who are on the ground. People who take the time to brush the point out of their hair. We need to do something about this. This cannot be acceptable. And Trump voters, tell me and justify in some logical way how it's okay to vote for someone who says one thing and then does the opposite. How do you find it in your hearts? Do you not question yourselves as beings when you're that susceptible to anything one person says? I think tonight I'm madder than I was yesterday. Hearing that press conference was insane. And knowing that there's support out there. California, secede. Jesus, look at that. This is beautiful. I'm not going to say what I was going to say. We'll just say, Likosam da munindis banayas. For those of you who understand, that was filthy. Umana. This can make life a little more tolerable, but we need to do something about this. This is messed up.
Grocery prices aren't down. Gas prices are still up. Egg prices haven't plunged 90%. Inflation isn't at zero. Wages aren't outpacing the cost of living. Tariffs aren't reducing the deficit. Tariffs are fueling inflation. The economy isn't booming. Illegals were never on Medicaid. They're not voting in elections either. And it's not just criminals being targeted for deportation. Putin is not a genius. Zelensky is not a dictator. Iran wasn't building nukes. The Epstein files do exist. And no, Obama and Hillary didn't create them as some sort of deep state conspiracy. I could keep going, I really could, because the lies haven't stopped since his mouth started moving. But I think you get the point by now. Donald Trump is a weak man, propped up by strong lies. He buys into his own bullshit, and he's betting you will too. That's why he loves uneducated voters, because if you can read above a third grade level, you'd already know. He's full of shit, and he's counting on you not checking a single word that comes out of his dumb mouth.
Republicans say that Trump is inheriting a terrible economy from Joe Biden, but they need a reality check because that is not true. Let's start with job growth. Prior to the pandemic, Donald Trump added 6.7 million jobs. Joe Biden has added 16.2 million jobs. Even when you completely take out the pandemic, Joe Biden still did better than Donald Trump on jobs. In fact, Joe Biden is on track to be the only president in American history to have job growth every single month of his presidency. Now let's talk about unemployment. Donald Trump likes to say that he had the lowest unemployment rate in American history, but Joe Biden broke that record in January of 2023 with a 3.4% unemployment rate, the lowest of all time. What about just net worth for middle-class families? This is Donald Trump, this is Joe Biden. Joe Biden created more net worth for the average family. What about GDP? You'll notice a theme here. Donald Trump, 7.8% growth. Joe Biden, 11.8% growth. Joe Biden, yet again, better. Now let's talk about inflation, every Republican's favorite talking point. This is global inflation, not the United States, just global inflation. As you can see, right when it peaked for us, it peaked for everybody else in the entire world because inflation was a global supply chain problem. That was our peak in 2022 at 9.1%, and this is us now at 2.7%, which is right in the target range of what we want to see for a healthy economy. So Joe Biden presided over inflation getting fixed. Unfortunately, nobody understands that because the Democrats did a terrible job messaging on it, but inflation is fixed, and Joe Biden was no small part in that. So this idea that the economy is terrible and needs to be fixed is complete and utter bullshit. How the economy feels to the average person is just a fundamental misunderstanding of how inflation and prices work. And unfortunately for Trump, he's going to learn that the hard way when he can't fix it either, and they turn their ire from Biden to Trump. Anyway, I just wanted to clear up Joe Biden's record on the economy before he leaves office because he actually did a very, very good job.
Right, just excuse what I look like because I've just woken up, but I actually cannot believe what I have just heard on BBC News this morning. Alexa, play BBC News. Get ready for this.
President Trump has insisted, without providing any evidence, that pregnant women should avoid paracetamol because of the risks of autism. Mr. Trump said he was acting because the number of autistic children was soaring, though that's thought to be because of better and broader diagnosis.
Alexa, stop. What? And that buffoon is running the show across the pond. And he's decided today that pregnant women should avoid paracetamol because it can make children autistic. With no evidence. He's just decided that. And because he runs a show, his voice gets listened to. And some people in this country think that he's the best thing since sliced bread. If you think that Donald Trump is good, and you think that he's a clever man after listening to that, then unfortunately, I can't have a serious conversation with you, and I won't take anything you say seriously because what an utter clown. What an utter clown.
During the campaigns, Trump claimed that our country debt is very high. That's what he claimed. And with bipartisan support, he appointed Elon Musk to head the Department of Government Efficiency. That's what he did. And after Musk being in charge for months, Trump went further to add 4.6 trillion US dollars to our debt. Imagine 4.6. And his campaign slogan was reducing our borrowing, cutting on costs. He went against that. Now, our country debt is rising by over $50,000 every second. They are eating cats and dogs. Do you remember that? Kamala Harris versus Donald Trump. They are eating cats and dogs. But when he came to power, what did he do to alleviate the issues affecting the residents of Springfield, Ohio, where he claimed that the Haiti immigrants were eating cats and dogs? And even Vivek Ramaswamy did a town hall there. I don't know, 4 hours town hall at Springfield, Ohio, talking about cats and dogs. It was all about hatred. It was all about racism, which was the main slogan behind Donald Trump's campaigns. Trump campaigned on racism and hatred and fear, but mostly striking fear on every citizen, which has thrived for centuries or decades. He banked on everything: racism, hatred, and fear. Fear of losing what we own, right? Fear of losing our jobs to immigrants. Now, why is Trump raiding construction sites, farms, factories, name them, when his main aim during the campaigns was that these immigrants were in these urban areas, in hotels, luxury hotels? What happened to these trendy Arangua members who are in Aurora, Colorado? What happened to them? I have never heard of them. Because the only trendy Arangua member who was arrested was Kilma Abrego. He is the only person from the trendy Arangua gang which Trump claims to have arrested. A family member, an American citizen. That's what Trump really campaigned on, and he thrived on it. So, guys, let's focus on the real issues affecting our country. Our country ain't affected by immigration. Our country ain't affected by these debts. Our country is affected by corporate greed, giving tax cuts to billionaires who don't need them. Billionaires don't need tax cuts. They are filthy rich. The people who are in need in our country is me and you. We need free healthcare. We need a check in the rising cost of housing in our country. So guys, everything you see happening in our country is all a plan to keep us distracted. And until next video, thank you for your attention to this matter.